Hi, Dr. Gamble here. In the previous video, we talked about how descriptive statistics can be used to help us analyze our data, but we didn't talk about how to calculate this descriptive statistics. One of the great things is Microsoft Excel can do most of the calculations for you. So I'm going to show you with a data set how we can do that. So what I have here, I have a data set showing measurements of bubble size for 3 different liquid soaps: Joy, Ajax, and Mr. Clean. For each of the soaps, we collected 5 different bubble samples, and I recorded the size in centimeters in each of the blocks. It's important not to mark down cm in the blocks because we want Excel to recognize these as numbers, and if you mix numbers and letters, you run into problems. So the 3 calculations I want to make today are mean, standard deviation, and standard error. The mean, or average, is very easily calculated once you've set your things up in this format by clicking on the box under Joy, and then right above I click on the Function tab, F sub x. When I click on that, it opens up and I have a collection of different functions. The one I want to use is the average, another word for the mean, and I say OK. It now wants me to tell it which collection of numbers does it want me to use. So I go and I click on the first of the numbers for Joy, and while holding down the button, drag down until I've clicked all of them, and let go, and it added B2 to B6. Click OK, and it has calculated the mean value for me. The next one I want to calculate is standard deviation, so I click below that, and again go to the Function tab, and here you can see standard deviation. Click on standard deviation, say OK, and again I'm going to highlight my same cell blocks and say OK, and it's calculated the standard deviation for me. So this is very, very quick and easy. Standard error is a little more problematic because there's not a custom function already created, but we're going to write our own calculation function. To do that, highlight the block for standard error and go up here and press the cursor in that point. And here's what you need to write, and you have to get this exactly correct or it doesn't work. You're going to write equals, then come down and click on the standard deviation block right above this, the one that says 0.83666 in my case. So I click there, and you'll note up here in the bar it is written cell B9, so it's going to look there for the correct number. Next, I put divide SQRT, which stands for square root, parentheses, count, C-O-U-N-T, parentheses, and I'm once again going to highlight all the numbers for this column. And now I need to close my parentheses and then close my parentheses again and hit enter. And I have now calculated standard error. Now you could go through and you could calculate the mean, standard deviation, and standard error for Ajax and Mr. Clean using the exact same method, but there's a quicker way. In Excel, when you have used a function to do a calculation, and you want to repeat that same function, click on, for example, the mean, and down here in this corner you'll see a little square. Go there until your cursor turns into the plus sign, hold down, and drag across until I'm highlighting all 3 of the boxes. Then I let go. And what has happened is it has applied this same function it used here to each of the different columns, but using their respective data rather than the data from Joy. I can do the exact same thing with standard deviation and standard error. And I have finished all my calculations. Didn't have to pull out a calculator or anything. Excel is really, really good at this, so I encourage you to play around with it and get more comfortable. So the next thing we want to do is we want to be able to make a graph demonstrating this data. Now, I want to show the means. I do not want to show the actual data. I want to show the means on my graph. But to make my life easier, I want the labels to already exist. So I'm going to highlight the means, hold down Control, and highlight Joy, Ajax, and Mr. Clean in my example. Go up top, click on the Insert tab, and I want to add a chart. In particular, I'm going to add a column or bar chart, and I'm going to add, very, very simple, the first one. Click, and I now have a chart showing me the mean values for each of the different ones. The fact that I highlighted Joy, Ajax, and Mr. Clean means it labeled each of them for me. If I didn't do that, I would need to go in and add a label. So I've just saved myself some work. So I've got a chart here, but I'm missing a few things that I would really like. The first thing I need is a title. A chart without a title is worthless. No one knows what it's showing us. So I just click on here, and I can write whatever I want. Bubble soap size by soap brand. Okay, so then click off to the side. I got rid of that. The other thing I really would like to see is I want to label my axes. And to do that, I'm going to go over and press on the plus sign. If you don't see the plus sign, if it disappeared, simply click on your graph and it will appear. So I click on my plus sign and axis titles. I want to check that. And I can go over on the side if I ever want, and I can see the different choices. I can select or deselect things. So right now, there we go. I've got my axis titles. So this one is soap brand. And then up here, bubble dome size in centimeters. So they know what size we're dealing with. Great, my chart's looking really good right now. And my initial conclusion looking at this is Mr. Clean is a better, has larger soap bubbles than Ajax, which has larger ones than Joy. However, as we talked about in that previous video, I need to take variability into account. So I need to add some error bars. To add the error bars, I'm going to go in, hit the plus sign, and down here we can see error bars. I'm going to check that. And it's added the error bars, but I've got a problem. Right now you'll see all three error bars are the exact same, even though we didn't have the same data measurements for each of the categories. So it doesn't know what numbers to look at, so I need to tell it to look at the correct numbers. So under the error bar tab, I'm going to click on the arrow, and I want more options. I now want to click on Custom and Specify Value. And I'm going to get custom error bars. Now, it's going to ask me to enter two different values. The positive error bar value. This is what goes above the mean. So I click here and I erase what is already there. I go over to my chart and find my standard error. Click and highlight all three. I'm going to do the exact same thing for this part. Delete it. Go and highlight the exact same three values and say OK. And you'll see my error bars just changed. This one had very small amount of variability in it, Joy. Ajax had more variability, and Mr. Clean had much larger amounts of variability. So if you remember how to interpret error bars, even though Mr. Clean has a higher mean than Ajax and Joy, the error bars show that we cannot conclude there is a significant difference between these three groups because the error bars overlap. If you're working in OneNote, you can now very easily click on your chart, right-click, copy, go into OneNote, and paste this into OneNote. And you now have a very nice chart showing full labels as well as your error bars. Hope that was helpful, and I wish you luck using Excel.